What's up, guys? Have you considered getting a business loan and you're not sure whether you should or not? Well, that's a common thing that many business owners think about. And today we're going to talk about how you can know if you should go get a loan or not. Welcome to Action Chat. I am Craig Severinsen, and this is the show where we come together every day at 10 a.m. Central to talk about how to create a massively successful business. That's a 6 or 7 figure business beyond. And we talk about doing it mostly by yourself. So if you're a solopreneur, providing a great service, this is the place for you. Okay, so today, how do I know if I should get a loan? All the time I get this question because when you first start your business, money's tight. It is tough. And so the first thing when you start thinking about getting a loan, you want to consider is, why are you getting the loan? The why is the first thing you want to talk about. And then we'll talk about how do you know if your why is correct, if the reason why you're getting a loan is in a good place. How do you know if you can afford to get one, or how much can you afford? Okay, let's start with the why. You could take out a loan for whatever you wanted. Most places will, if you have good credit, if you've got collateral, they'll give you a loan for whatever amount you want and for whatever reason you want. And some businesses do take out loans for things like your salary or for living expenses. But my personal belief is you only take out a loan when you're going to buy a productive asset, or when something is going to help you make more money. A productive asset is something that makes you more money. So a very simple example we could put, like, let's say you're a tailor, right? And you make X amount of custom clothing. If you bought a second sewing machine, could you double that output and make more money? That sewing machine would be a productive asset because it makes more money. This just pops into my mind. Let's, throw a wrench into this. You could buy that second sewing machine, but a smart entrepreneur might say, okay, I could buy a second sewing machine. Either way, I've got to hire somebody new to help me sew. Why don't I just hire someone for a night shift and use that single sewing machine double time, right? So then you're not getting in debt for a second asset. That's a side story. That's called making the most out of your productive assets. That's a different story. We won't get into that. Right now, we're going to focus on, if you're getting a loan, really it should be to help you make more money. So some examples of a productive asset would be like the sewing machine. So something in your business that will actually make you more money or make you more profitable. And that includes training. If you don't know how to get clients, if you don't know how to market your business or position your business with your marketing message, getting training with someone like me would be a productive asset. Now, typically with that training, we're also not talking about tens of thousands of dollars. We're talking about just a couple grand. And that's a big distinction too. If you don't know how to run a business, I would not suggest going to business school and spending $50,000 on trying to learn this stuff. Go out and try and experiment and sell things, and you'll get the experience you need. Okay, so let's say that your head is in the right space. You're getting this loan because it's going to help you make more money. It makes sense. Okay, what do we do? How can we tell if this is a good idea or not? Okay, we're going to try something new today. I'm going to share my screen. I was going to use the handy dandy whiteboard, and I'll show it to you. But that kind of spread, I was doing it right before we started here, and I just didn't think you'd want to stare at that little whiteboard while we did this. So I threw it up in Google Docs here, because I use Google Docs for everything. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, now that's going crazy. We're going to go here. Okay, so you should be able to see this. Now, this is our crystal ball right here. This is essentially a profit and loss statement for the last 2 months, and for the next, we actually would go 6 months into the future. I stopped right here at 2 months, but if we were doing this to really see if you need a loan, we'd go 6 months or even a year into the future just to kind of see. But what you see here is basically what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the past. We're going to look at our present situation, and then we're going to take a glimpse into our future. And like I said, we can typically go further, but for this exercise, we're just going to do these two. And what this is going to tell us is this is going to tell us what life would be like if we got a loan. So we would just start putting stuff in here. Let's use just nice round numbers. Let's say you made 5,000. You make about 5,000 each month, right? Your fixed expenses. Fixed expenses are things like your rent, your internet, things that don't change, right? let's just say you've got $500 in fixed expenses, and let's say that you've got $500 in variable expenses. Now, variable expenses are things that increase depending on the number of clients that you have. So let's say that for each client, you spend X amount of money servicing them. Well, that would be a variable expense because with each client, that expense goes up. Okay, so what we can do here is just create a simple algorithm, with the equals button, because all we're doing is we're saying, okay, so actually these would be, let me take a step back here, because these would be negative numbers because these are going out, of course. Okay, negative 500. I'm just going to copy and paste that since we're using the same number. Okay, there we go. So all we're doing here is we're saying, okay, our profit or loss is our income minus our expenses, right? So right now we see we have a profit of $4,000, right? So this would be the same. So actually, I think I can just pull this like this and get, yep, there we go. Okay, now let's say in the bank we had $500. That would be our starting cash, right? That means our available cash is going to be our profit or loss plus whatever starting cash we have. That's our capital. That's either the money you have in the bank or some sort of an investment, right? So we're doing pretty good right here. So we're just going to pull, oh, no, we're going to pull this number out that way. Okay. So now our starting cash would be 4,500, right? So we're doing really good. Bam, bam. This is how we tell if we could get a loan or not. So let's say we get a loan and the loan payments are $500. We don't expect anything to change, right? We expect to be making about let's say that we can increase this to 5,500 if we buy whatever it is that we're thinking we're going to buy, right? The fixed expenses, they stay the same. The loan amount, let's say that it's also $500, and the variable expenses, let's say that they double. Let's say they're $1,000, and I'm just making these numbers up. If they don't make sense, that's just the way it is. So this is always going to equal that little number right there, right? Boom, boom, boom. Hopefully you're staying with me here. Okay. So now what we can do is we can start forecasting out and say, okay, all this stuff is essentially going to stay the same, right? Whoops. We don't really see anything changing. So as we look at this, we can say, okay, yeah, awesome. It looks like as I go about this, my available cash is going to grow by a ton, and I'm going to make $500 more. Oh, but wait, I'm spending $1,000 more. Maybe that's not worth it. I can afford the loan, but maybe that's not worth it. Let's make these numbers a little bit smaller. Let's say that you only make $3,000. Well, let's say $2,500, right? And this goes up to 3,000 when you okay, now we start seeing that the numbers are a little bit different down here, right? And let's say that you wanted to take out a loan and the loan payback amount was $1,500, which is a lot of money, but let's just say that that's the case. See, you could even afford that. Well, actually, let's make sure that we did, yep, see, here's a problem here. This algorithm isn't working right. Oh, nope, that's what we want. Okay, there we go. So you can see you're still, let's look at this. This is interesting. Okay, so you actually don't make any money these 2 months. See that? There's no profit, but there's no loss. And there's no increase here. But on that second month, there's a break-even point. Well, what's going on here? Is this for sure? Well, I think you get the point. So I'm going to bring you back now. I'm going to stop sharing the screen, bring it back to me. There we go. Okay, now it was a long, kind of drawn-out thing, a little nerdy. I get it. If numbers aren't things, books aren't your things, I get that can be a little bit like, oh, I don't know what to do. But here's the thing. It really is your crystal ball. I mean, if we had put numbers in there that were smaller, like let's say you're only making $500 a month, those loan numbers are going to be really important, and you're going to be able to see when your break-even point is. Maybe you go negative in cash for 3 months, and then on the 4th month you make a profit, and in 6 months you're making thousands of dollars more. I mean, your actual numbers are going to be different, and that is really how you can look into the future and say, this is how much money I can afford, versus, in that example, I was really, really generous with the numbers, and so it looked like, yeah, we can afford whatever number we want to afford. But in your business, it probably isn't that clear cut, especially if you're considering and you're not sure how to do it. You're probably right on the edge where you're going to need to find a loan amount that doesn't break the bank. And that's important, because once you do this, you're going to be able to go to lenders and say, this is how much money I can afford per month. Versus if you're just to go unprepared, the lender's going to say to you, this is how much we can give you. You can afford, $1 million. Just take it. Money's raining from the sky. You can pay it back. And that might make your business go under, but they don't care, because they're just trying to get you the maximum loan amount. Versus if you're prepared, you can show up and say, hey, no, I can only afford this much payment for my business, or I'm not going to make any money, or it's going to be too much, or whatever. So I know it's nerdy, I know it's boring, but that's how you can tell if you should get a loan or not, right? And that's just, I call it your crystal ball. That's how you see into the future. And it's basically profit or loss statements, looking into the future. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this, because there are other bookkeeping things we could talk about, like what is a profit and loss statement. Most of you probably know what that is, but if you don't, we could do a tutorial on that. And also your income and expense log. These are basic tools for keeping your books in your business. And you don't need, typically people buy QuickBooks or some sort of software, but you don't necessarily need that. You can just start when you're small with an Excel spreadsheet if you know how to keep books. And eventually you'll outgrow that, but that's because you're making too much money and it's hard to do it manually. So you need those software to kind of do it for you. Okay, guys, that's it for today. First off, if you're going to get a loan, make sure it's going to make you more money, right? Get training to make you smarter so that you can get more clients. Get stuff that will sell more, or allow you to sell more. Don't get loans for things that don't make you more money. That's the number one thing. And then 2, look in your crystal ball and make sure you can afford whatever loan amount that you're getting. And even though it's tedious, even though it's nerdy, some of you are out there being like, hey, I love this stuff. I'm not that guy, but when I see the usefulness of the tool, I use it. So get out there, go get it, take some fast focus, imperfect action. I got your back. I believe in you. Go make it happen. See you later, guys.